It's a new year, and this is a brand new episode of Pop Kannon. This is episode 70. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Joe.
Guys, today, the three of us, we're going to discuss the Disney Plus series Hawkeye. We're going to talk about all 6 episodes. We're going to spoil the shit out of this, so if you have not seen that show and somehow have managed to avoid spoilers on the internet, good for you. But we're going to dive into what we liked, what we didn't like. Let's lead off with Joe. What were your initial thoughts on the series Hawkeye?
Hawkeye, I feel very complicated about. At the end of those 6 episodes, I really didn't know how to feel. It felt like they were trying to do too many things and not really succeeding at many of them. It's a very clear attempt at adapting Matt Fraction's Hawkeye comic, the award-winning Hawkeye comic that, of course, you would try to, but the MCU Clint Barton is definitely not the 616 Clint Barton, and that kind of absence was felt. And then this Kate Bishop was also not completely in line, I think, with at least my reading of comics, Kate Bishop. And I don't want to be like super purist about like everything has to be exactly like the comics world, because that can get boring really quickly. But when you're trying to match something as good as Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, it's really just going to come through if you fail. And I do think in that respect they did. There were things that I liked. Like I like when Clint is being a dad. That's really cool. And like he uses his dad magic on Kate. And I think that's a place that Clint has worked in the past in the MCU. Like whenever he is paired with Wanda, or like his relationship with Pietro in Age of Ultron. I think they found like a nice role for that character there. But when he's trying to be funny, when he's like inept, or even when he's like trying to be traumatized by the things he did as Ronin, like it doesn't come across that he feels bad at all about the stuff he did for those 5 years.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either. And I don't think his wife does either. No. He doesn't really have like a ton of internal conflict. Even like the whole thing with Natasha, which we'll get into, I didn't really feel it. They didn't do a good job of showing me, and they didn't even do a good job of telling me when they decided that they couldn't show it. They just kind of, I don't know. The writing was very spotty. The performances were equally spotty. I think the saving grace came from some of the side characters. Like Florence Pugh really should have been in this series more. She was a godsend that only showed up 5 episodes in of a 6 episode series. Yeah, that was a ton of bad. There were definitely fun points that I enjoyed that we'll get into. But I think overall, I was just left wanting from Hawkeye. Yezi, what did you think?
So, when the series was over, I felt really wishy-washy about the whole thing. There was a lot of wasted time in those first 3 episodes, just kind of meandering through what this part of the universe looks like and feels like and stuff, and then it ramps up in 4 and takes off in 5, and I don't feel like they stuck the landing in the finale. Yeah, there was a real high level of anticipation that built, and then Spider-Man came out. And then you have like a couple of days later, and then you get the Hawkeye finale, and people are fucking like jacked up on Spider-Man, and then I feel like it was just kind of like, oh, well, all right. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the performances were spotty. I felt like some of the actors weren't even consistent throughout, especially Clint in episode 6, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but I felt like there was such a disconnect from how he was presenting throughout to like the beginning of episode 6, where he's just like reading lines that felt like about their friendship or whatever the fuck. You're my partner. Like it. I know he has to say that.
That stuff to me felt like he's in dad mode. I think he was saying what he thought she needed to hear.
Yeah. And he's used to talking with his kids, so there's a level there that he just easily slips into.
Yeah, for me, especially that last episode, I felt like he was really robotic. But I felt like Vera Farmiga's performance was like, I don't know if she was just like, everybody else was so underwhelming that she felt like she was overacting, because I know of her to be a very good actor. Yeah. So when she gets in this, I was like, oh shit. And then her performance felt like she was chaos in a room of everybody that was just kind of like, whatever, you know? So I would say this was like middle bottom MCU output. I think it's in the bottom third of the MCU for me, for sure. Jordan, what do you think initially about Hawkeye?
Watching through all 6 episodes of Hawkeye at times felt like a chore. You guys had mentioned that it slogged along, and it really did there for a little while, and then Florence Pugh showed up and was a complete breath of fresh air in this show that it really needed. It needed a good kick in the pants, and I think her appearance and performance really was like the saving grace for this show, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So initial thoughts, like after watching that 6th and final episode, I hated it.
Yeah.
I texted you guys. I was like, well, that was garbage. Like I didn't like it. Having more time spent away from it and looking at it more as a bigger 6 episode mini movie, it's still not very satisfying. We mentioned how Marvel's struggling currently with whether or not they can actually pull off a satisfying television show. Before we recorded, Joe was talking about how they constantly like try to be the next HBO or something like that. And so far, all of their MCU TV stuff has not really given us a satisfying television feel, in my opinion. Like you guys said, the performances were spotty. I wasn't really a big fan of all of the characters in general. There wasn't many likable people aside from some of the secondary characters. I'm just kind of meh. Definitely lower third of the MCU for me. But with all that being said, I do feel like there was enough good in this show that you could still say like, well, it still had its moments.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely moments throughout that I thought it was fun, and there were definitely moments where it seemed like big shit was going to happen and like it wound up not. Going off of what you were saying before, like some of the characters were just not. I don't know of many characters in this that were likable, and the ones that were supposed to be villains. Like Florence Pugh's character is insanely likable because of how she's presenting her, and it felt the scene where she has that where she's eating the mac and cheese or whatever.
Yeah.
Completely like separate from the show. They're in this one little room and it's just 2 people talking, but like the magnetism of that sequence made the show feel so great. And that's where it should have been. Like she should have been involved for sure from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because those first 3 episodes where we're thinking it's the swordsman and all of that, like, what the fuck are we spinning tires for over there? You know?
Yeah.
Well, especially like ever since the post credits of Black Widow, we're just waiting for Yelena to show up. And she should have been there way earlier in this series. But like to have her show up at the end of episode 4, they wanted it to be like a what the fuck moment, and it really just came as like a finally moment.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, she's finally here, but then she doesn't get to talk. She goes away and she's like, I'll be back next episode.
Yeah.
And where I'll tell you everything going on with me, and then we'll have to wrap it up very quickly.
And that's exactly how it felt.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it felt.
First off, like that opening of episode 5 with her going through the blip, that was the most amazing visualization of that I think we've seen so far, and we've seen a couple of different iterations of it But
Yeah.
that
We've
was
never
by
truly
far the
gotten it
best.
from someone's point of view the entire time.
And like
Right.
the unbroken shot of her like disappearing and like to her perspective immediately coming back. That was amazing. But
Yeah.
like if we had gotten that in the beginning and like her dealing with the entire, which we know before she even shows up, it's just a misunderstanding. We know when she got the assignment to like go
Right.
and kill Clint that like this is a misunderstanding and they're going to have to
Talk
resolve
it.
it. Yeah.
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 And that should have been dealt with as like other Marvel shows have done at least somewhat well, is like, okay, we're going to tie up our secondary storyline so that the last episode can just be about our main conflict.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I'm not even sure what the main conflict of this show was.
No, because the last episode winds up in 3 very separated spots,
Yeah.
Yeah.
tying 3 separate storylines up to a certain extent. And like one of them throughout the whole series, not only did I not care at all, but we kept having to take time away from people I do give a shit about. And that became super frustrating. I'm assuming like, because I don't know anything about the character. So me getting Maya in the show means nothing to me not knowing who that character is. Right.
Right.
So then you start her off as a bad guy. Right.
Yeah.
So like I'm not sympathetic towards her in any way. And then by episode 6, she's had such a hard turnaround that she's going to start being a hero. And I was like, why did we do all of that in this show when she's getting her own program?
Yeah.
Like that would have been nice to have her end as a villain here and then make the turn in her show. So then there's character development for her own program. Now she's just a hero there. So it's going to be 6 episodes and she's going to solve it at the end and everybody's going to be happy. Like, I don't understand why we had to get all of that in here as well.
Yeah. I think either that or give her more in this and take away some of this extra fat
Absolutely.
to like justify that. Cause like,
Right.
I'm definitely intrigued by Maya, and her like alter ego is Echo in the comics, which that's like the working title of the show. So like, I don't know how
Yeah.
she'll get that moniker going
Yeah.
forward, but like, I'm definitely intrigued by her, but you're right. We didn't get enough to actually like
Yeah.
feel anything for her besides
There
like,
wasn't enough there to hook
Right.
anyone from the beginning in the first place.
and they're expecting you to just kind of latch on to the fact that like she's disabled, and that's like a mirror to Clint's like now like retconned disability in the MCU,
Yeah.
which is kind of insulting to just assume that that's enough. I didn't hate the retcon of Clint being deaf because
No.
that is important to that comic, and like it's an interesting thing, and the way that they justified it made sense. I think
I think so.
yeah.
it was a very like kind of rushed decision to be like, now this character is deaf, just like in the comic.
Yeah, I don't know that they gave it. We see why, and like obviously we know why because we've seen everything that he's been in, most of the things that he's been involved in.
Yeah.
But I feel like there definitely could have been like a full blown like, and this is when that happened, because it's his. For me, it's still called Hawkeye, and I know that we have to spend time with Kate, and that's awesome. But I feel like a lot of Clint's time should have been spent on Yelena to give that end moment way more poignancy than it had, because they really tried
Yeah.
in episode 6 to give that some weight, and I just didn't feel like it was really there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just kind of like it happened and they were like, oh, so like this literally could have been like a text message exchange between you two.
Did you kill my sister? Nah. Oh, my bad.
No,
oh,
LOL,
okay.
what you mean?
Which you also think like Clint would have looked for her after they all got back, but
Yeah. Like,
or
why
at least
wouldn't
like
he?
show like that he tried but couldn't because of the guilt he felt or whatever.
Right.
But,
Or like he tried, but like she didn't want to be found or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. But like,
Any amount of effort on his behalf to make you feel like he actually did want to find her,
Yeah.
other than him just saying, I wanted to find you.
yeah, he's like, oh, Yelena, I know her. oh fuck.
Oh, and then he knows everybody. Apparently, he's just like, oh yeah, the Kingpin. Remember? And I was like, he just knows him. What the fuck? Like, oh, okay, whatever. I guess
that's certainly one way to introduce characters.
Yeah, I mean, so that's also like the big thing that came out of this show. I feel like was the MCU introduction of Vincent D'Onofrio reprising Kingpin from the Marvel Netflix Daredevil series. So he's the same character, quote unquote. But man, did they take liberty with him.
Yeah. I'm very excited that he's back in the role.
Yeah.
Because I loved him in the Netflix shows.
Yeah.
Loved everything about his performance, what he brought to that character. And I feel like transposing that to this, it just seemed like he wasn't the same guy.
This is the guy plus 5 years. And like, there's a lot of like what happened to him. Because like it's implied he didn't get blipped because Clint got information from his people while the blip was going on.
Right.
But like the end of Daredevil season 3, we see like he's been like completely taken down. But like somehow he's escaped prison again. But like he's not
in the position of power he was in.
He's not on the face of society anymore. He's very much embedded in the underground.
Yeah.
So like psychologically, I don't know where this character is at, even though like he was already in like a shitty place before. His performance, I felt like, was still a good through line from Netflix. I thought like his abilities, I guess we'll say, were definitely amped up from what we'd seen before. And while, I got an initial like jump of joy from, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my bookshelf because of what I'm about to say. I liked seeing his like Spider-Man Family Business outfit. But then after the first like couple seconds, I was like, that looks fucking ugly. And like thinking about like that guy from the Daredevil show, I'm like, why would he wear that?
Yeah, why would he ever wear that?
And like they put him in that weird like luau room, but didn't explain like what was going on about like if he had a reason to be wearing that. So yeah, the fashion choice was weird. And I'm just assuming he still has the tailored suits from Daredevil that can withstand an explosion.
And arrows
directly and arrows and maybe bullets, who knows.
I mean, like, so like I liked his performance more or less. Like I didn't think that it was a departure necessarily. When he first comes on screen, they continued the framing thing that they did where they shot him from a real low angle to show how big he was. And then when he looked down at Kate's mom, the camera was from way up high, so she looked very, very small. And then when he's face to face with Echo, the camera is not done that way. So she is the same size as him, even though they tried to make him look tremendous for his introduction.
Well, isn't that... I think that works, though, because Echo is, like, coming out from under him and, like, facing him as an equal. So, like, I think as, like, a thematic thing, I think that does work.
It just bothered me because, like, I know that they were shooting him to get the perspective of he's a much larger person. And then when you shoot them on the same level, you're saying that she's the same tremendous height that he is. Visually, to me, is, like, what I'm carrying through that. Yeah. Because if you're doing high and low angles, you're suggesting how much taller he is. And then to put them with the shot reverse shot and there's no noticeable height difference, it was like...
And then you go and you see Maya standing next to Kate, and they're like kind of the same size, and you're like, wait a minute. So I get the spatial awareness situation.
I think it's more of a thematic choice than a spatial choice.
But I do also understand Joe's point in saying like thematically that makes sense.
And that's what I had like thought is why they did that, but I just was like, well, don't do both.
Yeah. It's a choice.
I feel like don't do both because it's definitely a decision in the camera to be like, okay, no, we're definitely going to do this, and then we're like, all right, now all bets are off. Everyone's the same height. Like,
and it's not even like it's a different episode.
Right,
it's like within the same episode.
Yeah,
and I think he's another character that it would have benefited them to intro him earlier. And I think
Yes.
part of the decision not to might have been because of No Way Home, because spoiler alert, Matt Murdock shows up in No Way Home, and it's a nice 1-2 punch of like Kingpin's in the MCU, also Daredevil's in the MCU like a week later. But I think everything they like, or at least like downplay him in episode 6 because he hasn't been there for the rest of the series. So like making him such
much of a piece of it,
right, so important in the last episode is inevitably not going to work, because all you're doing is telling me about him. Like, you're telling me that he and Maya are like family and like closely related when we haven't seen them interact, bar when she says, I need some time off, and then she shoots him. Like, jumping off of like my old point of like, I wanted Yelena there from the start. If he was the reveal of episode 4, and then even if like episode 5 is all about Kingpin and what's been going on this whole time, and you don't even see Clint and Kate for half of it, that would have been fine and honestly great to see Vincent D'Onofrio back and then learn more about Maya in the process too. I know this is a review podcast, not like how I would have done it podcast,
but honestly, that's a good way to that's a good way to like lay out the story structure and make your characters mean something, because when you try to like throw out red herrings like with Jack and like even her mom there for like a while, like it just gets to the point where you're like, okay, who are these people and why do I care about them?
It's just weird because like they tell you in the first scene that Kate doesn't even like her mom when she's like a 10-year-old. And then like you just get the sense she never really did end up liking her mom.
Her mom was also really unlikable.
Did Kate's mom ever actually like her? Because
I think she did. And I think
she said that she did. I was told that she did, but
I think she did like twist it in her mind. And I think she was like the manipulative mom. And honestly, like, I didn't get a lot of sense from like Kate's arc that like her mom was totally wrong that she can survive without the money. Like, it's a thing in the comics that like Kate really like resents the money that her family has. But you don't really get that here. Like, she probably should have gone to prison for tearing down that bell tower, but she didn't. She got away with it because of money. We can talk about this more later, but I would be interested in like a second season just focused on Kate, not split up among everybody else. I think she is an interesting character, and I don't hate this representation of her. I just think it's unfortunate that a lot of what the character could have been got lost in the muddy water of everything else going on in this show.
Did you like Hailee Steinfeld as Kate? Her representation of the character, do you think that it does the character justice? Because I don't know from the comic necessarily what to expect. I just get that they really wanted her to be likable and quirky. And I think that they succeeded to a certain extent, but it almost turned all the way around to being unlikable for me.
Kate in the comics is a little more grating. Like, she's definitely, and that kind of plays off of how Clint is a very different character in the comics too. Like, Clint in Fractions Hawkeye is a lovable idiot. Like, he's inept and he's depressed and he's going through shit. And Kate is just like, you know, I picked up this mantle when you were dead, and you know, you're a cool guy, but also like you a fucking shitstorm, Clint Barton. So yeah, she's quirky, but she's a little more hard-edged than I think Hailee Steinfeld's portrayal is. But I don't hate her. I think she's funny when she needs to be. I think she has potential to be a really great presence. It kind of felt like they couldn't decide whether it was Clint's show or Kate's show, and they didn't really give either of them enough of a balance. Like, it could definitely be like a shared thing, but it didn't really feel like they explored either of them to the full extent.
Because at the very end of it, he's introducing his wife to her for the first time. Like, oh, this is Kate. This is the girl I've been telling you about, or whatever. And I was just like, that seems so weird that they wouldn't have communicated in some way in all of that time that he was not with his family. It just seemed like,
I mean, it was only like a week, and he was in touch with his wife, and like I think like
a lot.
I think it's
Yeah.
implied
Yeah.
by that like like you came up and I like talked about you and stuff. But
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like at some point they probably would have interacted on
I
the
don't
phone
know.
or something.
Well-
That it seemed weird that they were like first being introduced at that point. Because I guess maybe it was a credit to the show that they made him and her so close that you just kind of assumed she would have known his family. But I guess he never actually brought her around his kids, because obviously he sent
he's
them
so
the fuck
closed
away. Yeah.
off, and like that
Yeah.
character in the MCU is so like, I'm keeping my family separate from everything,
Yeah.
including this. So
yeah.
But then you learn at the end his family hasn't always been separate because his wife's a fucking agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which is a whole other fucking thing.
Nightmare, I know.
Well, because okay, we'll pause and talk about Laura Barton, because she's Agent 19, who is Mockingbird,
Yeah.
but who also has Mockingbird has already been portrayed in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is like an
Doesn't
extra nail in the coffin for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
that's it.
Yeah.
But like
It's
That was
officially
that was
dead.
the headline one of the headlines that I saw. It was like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. officially dead in the MCU per the last episode of Hawkeye.
Well, it double sucks because like that character, I forget who played her in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like she was supposed to have a spin-off series with Hunter, one of the other characters from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and like she was super cool, and like it would have been, I thought it would have been a good show, but it got canceled before it ever did anything. But they had already written her out of the show, so she was like off of that. She didn't get her show, and like the character I think might have come back later for like a brief appearance, but like it was really just a waste. And then they're just like, but also fuck that, this was Agent
That's
19
fucked
and
up.
you're never gonna see her again, because like we're like Linda Cardellini's not gonna come and do a fucking standalone movie.
No.
Well,
Although, I mean, I'd watch it because she's awesome.
I would watch it too. I love Linda Cardellini.
But it
But,
is an interesting point you brought up, that like he bifurcated his life so much that like I'm Clint Barton with them and I'm Hawkeye here, and then like once he lost his family, it was like now I'm just this weapon. But then like they didn't really show a struggle of like, oh, I got my family back, so what am I now? He's just like, well, back to
Well,
what
now
it
I'm
was
home
before.
for Christmas.
Nothing bad will ever happen again.
New theory: Laura is actually a Skrull, and it was
Oh.
the same character the whole time. Confirmed. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. still alive.
I'm so not excited for when the scroll thing rears its ugly head again. Never mind.
I'm right there with you. But anyway,
But so we were talking about Kate Bishop, like overall. Jordan, like how did you feel about Kate Bishop overall?
after watching the first episode, and I know episodes 1 and 2 released simultaneously, but I only watched episode 1 and then I took a break for like 2 days. I fucking could not stand Kate for those first 2 to 3 episodes. I think by episode 3 I was finally like, okay,
yeah,
I'm really starting to like get it, and I'm like becoming endeared towards her. She wound up like really impressing me towards the end. The stuff with Yelena is really what won me over, and that stuff saved the show, like I said. But I don't necessarily think I'd feel the same way about her and that character had she not had those moments with Yelena.
Well, I think part of that is even like needing someone to play back. Like that, like comedy really only works when it's like bouncing back and forth with someone. And Jeremy Renner's not a very good comedic actor. Like anytime they tried to make him funny, and this was just like
flat as fuck.
Yeah. And then like seeing her like trying to be funny with a not very funny person was just like, this isn't really working. But then when she can have like Yelena or even like the like tracksuit Draculas to be like, give him like dating advice. Like that was a fun moment that like, if you can play with it, then it's entertaining. But if it's just you like throwing something at a wall, it's not that fun to watch.
I did really enjoy that they brought that guy back at the end for him to thank her.
Yeah.
Like, that made me fucking laugh.
Yeah. And stuff like that is funny. And that's like the humor that like the MCU finds a home in.
Yeah. But yeah, like like Jordan said, I don't know that she was necessarily likable right out of the gate.
Oh yeah.
But it's also like Jeremy Renner isn't a great straight man for that kind of humor that she was trying to pump out those first 3 episodes. But like when you get Florence Pugh sitting across the table from her, it felt like there was a star in the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was like, because nobody else really had the opportunity to monologue the way that she did. Like they gave Yelena like a lot once they finally let her sit down and talk.
Yeah.
And she immediately fucking crushed it and made Hailee sitting across the table from her that much better for having been involved in that transaction of speak. It was great.
But I found Jeremy Renner to be so flat. And he seemed like, and I get that the character didn't want to be there for the first couple of episodes, but it felt like he didn't want to be there. And like he just didn't seem like he was even in the mood to like
to be
do
there. Yeah.
the things. So like Hawkeye to me didn't come off as likable for the first couple of episodes.
I think Hawkeye didn't, but I think Clint did. Like those moments in the beginning when you see him with his kids, that's really endearing. Like I love those moments. And then like if you keep that in mind, I think in the 6th episode when he sees like Kate going through it because she just found out like her mom is the big bad or whatever, he's just like, I have to be a dad right now because this kid is really fucking going through it. Whereas like he was like just trying to get away from her before that, but he's like, I need to help her. So, and that's why he like does all the like superhero shit. It's like in Far From Home when like Jake Gyllenhaal is just like, call me Mysterio. He's like, all right, I'll play into it because I know that like that's what this kid wants from me.
Yeah. Not right. I mean, aside from involving his children into the show, like his interactions with Kate felt so much like we have to have these two talk so he could pass this along.
Yeah.
And that's why they're talking. So much of it felt like he was just kind of going along with it too. Like that's what I didn't understand. Like he felt like he had to save her, I guess, but he also seemed like at any point in time he could just fucking walk away and she would just be stuck on her own and he would be completely satisfied with that as well. So that's when she was like, oh, you're sticking around? He was like, yeah, I'm gonna help you. I was like, oh.
The whole like episode like 3 or 4 when they're in the safe house and they just like start drinking and having like a Christmas party together was super weird, out of left field. Like it didn't fit like the stakes that they had set for like what they were trying to do. They're like, I guess we'll have a party and be happy now. And it was like on its own, it was like, yeah, that's fun. But then like within the greater scheme of things, it's like, what are you even doing?
Going back to Maya a little bit, like her and her whole motivation and the turn with her father and her friend Kazi, who could like translate for her. None of that needed to necessarily be in this.
No, dude, it really didn't.
I don't think it should have been. No. And I think they could have like parceled it off and like teased stuff for her own show. But at the end of the day, like...
Well, I'm going to disagree there because I think the father story was very important to like why the Ronin plot mattered. Like why she had this vendetta against Ronin. And like
I felt like all of that was so fucking forced. It was unbelievable. All of that connection to the Ronin stuff, and that's why she's angry because she watched him murder.
If they straight up played it off more like, oh, well, Kingpin is literally telling her, no, this is the dude that killed your dad. This is the dude that killed your dad. Like if they did that and actually made him more of a force, or like made it more clear that someone was conveying this message to her,
right?
I think it would have paid off way better.
I think if they had conveyed more that Clint was haunted by the Ronin and the things he did as the Ronin, I think it would have played better. Because it really just felt like business for him, not really like a personal thing. Like, it was always a thing in the comics whenever, like, when Ronin first showed up and then, like, another Ronin showed up later, it was always like, who is the Ronin? And, like, it was a big reveal when you find out it was Clint, because Clint was supposed to be dead. It would be interesting if somebody, not that, like, the suit was, like, on sale at this auction, but if somebody was wearing the suit and being the Ronin, and Clint sees that, and he's just like, well, that wasn't me. And he has to go and find this person. That would have been interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yelena should have absolutely had the fucking Ronin costume and made him chase her.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that would have been a real psychological way to fuck with him.
Yeah.
And you know that she already knows all of that shit about him because Black Widows are supposed to know everything. So
no, that would have been a great decision. Or like even make it so that like Jack is somehow involved, and Jack dressed as the Ronin was hired by Kingpin to kill her dad.
Yeah. Or like that random dude that got murdered, remember? Remember that old white dude got murdered randomly by Kate's mom, and we find out it was Kate's mom, and we were all just like, oh wow, somebody committed murder, and nobody fucking... Oh, all right, well.
It was also funny because that guy in the beginning of the episode is just like, oh, you're Kate Bishop. I fucking hate your mom. I hope Jack fucking leaves her and you all die in a ditch. But
I'm pretty sure that actor is the dude from Ace Ventura 2, is he not?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I hadn't made that connection until you said that, and I was like, yes, it is.
That's funny.
The guy who has the bat shit on his shoe. Yeah. As soon as I saw him, I went, that face is familiar to my brain.
I really liked Jack Duquesne, though. I thought he was a lot of fun. And it was a little obvious that he was a red herring from the beginning, but it was also like, I really want to like this guy. So it was like when you like finally get the okay to be like, it's fine to like this guy. He's just like, funny dude.
All right, he's sweet.
And he just is so excited to finally use his swords.
You had texted after I think the last episode where it's like he's completely in the free and clear, and you were like, I'm so glad I got to like him.
His performance was great.
Yeah. Tony Dalton.
He was so lively and into it, and it was just cool to see him interacting.
And his little
but it just sucked because of the
cousin.
way that they positioned his character in the whole show
series. Yeah.
Which, like, it wouldn't make a ton of sense for him to, like, stay in Kate's life after this, but, like, there's a part of me that hopes that, like, he does. Like, he stays in touch.
I don't see any reason why he couldn't pop up in the future in other Disney Plus stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
You know?
He could train Kate to sword fight.
If there's another black market, high dollar secret auction at a party... maybe just throw him in the background.
He got like a taste for it, so he goes out at night with his swords fighting crime. Do we want to talk about the LARPers on that note?
Yeah.
He had that fun moment at the end when they're like, hey, you ever heard of LARPing? And he ends up by just saying, oh, balls, I got blood on my tie.
I loved the LARPers.
Yeah.
I thought they were a much needed jolt of energy for this show.
I was like a little weirded out at first because they were treated as like just a joke, and I was glad that they stuck around to like be more of like side characters, which like the side characters of the Matt Fraction Hawkeye are like part of what makes it amazing, just everybody that lives in that apartment, which was also what made me very nervous when one of them was Grills, because Grills does not have a great time in Hawkeye. But yeah, I was a little nervous because I think Loki also did a thing with like Ren fairs and LARPers where they just treated them as like a one-off joke. And like, it was like, all right, that's kind of a cheap shot at that community. But to have them like stick around and then be like the secret waiters at the party. Yeah, be likable and then be actually a part of like the team. I thought it was really fun, like what they ended up doing with them. So.
Yeah. And it like seeing that slow motion action scene where everyone's charging at Clint and he's just like easily dispatching them. That was kind of funny.
I mean, I didn't necessarily dislike the LARPers. I thought that it was fun. It was another thing in this show that it's like, we've spent a little bit of time with these guys. Can we like get back to the shit that we're talking about here? I liked at the end that they put their shit on and people just believed them suddenly because they were wearing costumes.
I wonder if they thought they were like Asgardians or something.
So yeah, like they literally just put on some costumes and everybody was like, oh fuck, listen to these guys because the heroes are here.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that it also paid off into giving them new costumes.
Yeah.
Because each Disney Plus show, if you've noticed, has given our heroes new outfits.
Yeah.
Toys, bro.
I was a little nervous because I think they showed off those outfits in like one of the thumbnails before they even revealed it in the show. And in the thumbnail, it looked fucking ugly. Like Clint has like these long purple sleeves that are just kind of gross to look at. But in like the dark like lighting of the MCU, like it was fine. It was nice.
Yeah. I really liked how it looked.
Yeah.
For both of them, really, for Kate and for Clint. I liked how it looked. And it looked like it was right off the page too. Like it's pretty accurate, I feel like.
I do think like as like a handoff of the moniker, I think this worked overall. Like at least in as much as that, I think it worked.
And I think threading her not being able to pick a name through the show, I think also is something that really helps that handoff.
Right.
Yeah.
It was cute.
He's just like, just be fucking Hawkeye, dude.
Yeah.
Like, leave me alone about it.
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, Hawkeye's tried to retire how many times now, but I think this might be it for Jeremy Renner in the MCU.
And you know what? I mean,
it's fine.
Not everybody else got a 6-hour movie to get sent off, so.
Yeah. So.
It just it's disappointing that it was these 6 hours.
I mean, it was always like a question of like Hawkeye always was like a side character in like Avenger stuff, and he got like nice moments to shine. It was like, oh, what could he do if he had like the spotlight? And the answer is not much. And now we know.
I think it was they didn't have the confidence that he could carry 6 episodes, so they stuffed it full of other people to try to give it as much, you know, what's inside of a sausage to make it a sausage. Like they just tried to give him as many other things that could help prop this show up to get it out. Because I feel like maybe they just saw what they had and they were like, I mean, he could do like good for like 3 episodes, but we've got to fill the rest of that time.
Yeah. The MCU like always does try to like stuff as much like how does this fit in with the rest of the world?
But we've seen them do that so well, and
we've seen it.
I don't think
well,
necessarily we haven't seen it done well on the on the TV level. Yet I don't think, because I think that for me, all of the Disney Plus shows have either stumbled out of the gate, hit a nasty rut in the middle, or completely missed on the landing.
Well, you think about Jimmy Woo and Darcy in WandaVision. Like those were like 2 characters. Like, why are they here? But like 100%. In the end, like completely felt justified just because. Yeah. And they also like threaded them into the show very well, I felt.
Yeah.
But I just don't like. I think it was the same kind of thing of like they had like a checklist of people to get in, but they didn't really
think about it this far.
Yeah. Which like I don't necessarily want to say that because I know that like hundreds of people worked on this show and I'm sure that they thought it out a lot. I just don't think that they succeeded.
Well, I mean, you can think it out all you want, but like it has to get shot and it has to get edited. And
and how much of the
all your great intentions can be there, but if in the editing room you're like, look, we need to drop 2 minutes. And it's all of the backstory of the shit that you think is good, and then the rest of it's kind of in there. It's like you're just kind of stuck with that.
Yeah. This could have benefited from being like spread it out and spread out the nonsense side arcs. Like it was just like the story for this itself felt like a side mission. Like the main thing felt like a side mission with a bunch of other little tiny side missions sprinkled underneath.
I mean, Hawkeye had to go get that watch. Remember, that was like half an episode to go retrieve that watch. And then at the end of it, he just kind of hands it to his wife, and we see that it says 19, and we're like, oh, she worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, she's Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Oh, are we ever going to see them again? Like, you know what I mean? So, like, what does it even matter or mean to give her that moniker just to piss people off that were hoping to see Mockingbird? Like,
Yeah. The entire watch plotline was so stupid.
Because that's one of those things that they put into this show, but like, did we need it at all? Because what did it affect on the outside?
It affected nothing except
It affected nothing because
just pissing off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans.
If Linda Cardellini's not coming back to play Mockingbird,
Yeah.
that was literally time spent on absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And that was literally like half an episode, dude.
The whole point of it felt like it was mostly for the watch. Like the whole point of the show and the whole reason that Clint was even there was to retrieve that watch. It wasn't even about the
he stumbled
Ronin
upon
stuff.
the Ronin stuff when trying to retrieve the watch first, right?
No, I think he heard about the Ronin suit, and then like something came up about the watch as he was like doing that. So like the impetus was Ronin, and then the watch just came up somehow.
So that it was even more of an afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the fact that like nobody was like taking inventory of the stuff they were like getting out of the Avengers compound.
So could we but the problem was like the red suit gang, that's what they're called, right?
Tracksuit Draculas.
The problem was the tracksuit Draculas, when they first showed up at that auction, were there specifically for the watch.
Right.
So what were they going to get out of the watch?
But doesn't them showing up imply that Kingpin sent them to get the watch then?
Yeah.
So what is his connection to Agent 19's watch?
Unclear. They found it at the Avengers compound. Nothing else matters aside from the watch. That was a line of dialogue that one of them said.
But like they had also like already figured something out. Like they had already figured out that Clint was Ronin or Clint was involved. Because when they break into Maya's apartment, she's got the list of like his family's names, which is really just there to intimidate him. Like you wouldn't just write down a list of names. So it was really just, I think like the watch was really just to be like, fuck you, I know who you are.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, but it was just a waste.
But Maya didn't know that like he was Ronin. So
I think they
why
just figured
would
it
she
out.
have the list of names?
It doesn't take a ton of thought when you've got him like tied up in that warehouse and he's like, oh, I know the Ronin because I was there when he died. It's like, oh, it's you. I see.
Right.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's at least like the way I read it, because like it's like a stupid thing for him to say like I was there when he died. It's like,
That's really convenient, actually.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't play well for me.
Oh, yeah, no.
overall. I don't know if I'll ever need to rewatch this.
The trick arrows were a little weird too. Like the like jelly thing was
They
like
played weird. In the context of the show with that montage that they were doing,
Yeah.
it played really weird.
and
for
like
me.
the most that we've seen in the MCU is like maybe like bomb arrows and like his grappling hook arrow.
Yeah.
Oh, and like the cool like taser arrow that he used on Vision. So you had like more
Yeah.
like, I don't know, sci-fi, less like goofy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I
Which,
mean,
like-
I always just assumed he had those other ones available, but just didn't use them yet.
Yeah.
So when we get them in here, I was fully expecting a bunch of I was expecting like a fucking boxing glove on an arrow, like from Acme in Looney Tunes.
I was upset they made fun of the boomerang arrow without actually doing it, because that's like
Yeah.
such a funny thing from the comics. But and like when did he get the Pym arrows? Like
Yeah.
Scott wouldn't have been able to make a Pym arrow, and like Hank Pym would never give him a Pym arrow. So like, where did that even come from?
Yeah, and the Avengers don't own that shit.
Yeah.
So that's
He'll
100%
have to
separate.
he'll have to ask Scott about it though.
Yeah, because they're in touch. As if like he doesn't fucking hate Scott and all of them.
maybe in Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 Quantumania we'll get Maybe Scott will be like firing off a text message, be like, "Sorry, he's ordering a few more trick arrows." Like,
it's very lucky that the Pym arrow shrunk the guys with the truck instead of just shrinking the truck, because that's what like my mind went when it was just like jelly
it's fine.
shooting
They got
out.
taken away by a fucking owl and supposedly eaten or something.
hysterical.
That was going to be the original post credits before they did Rogers the Musical. It was going to be the owl in its nest with just the guys in the Trust a Bro truck.
I would have preferred that over what we got. But
yeah, we didn't talk about the only post-credit scene that we got in the show.
Yeah.
it completely encompasses my feeling on a waste of time.
I think post credits have the right to be a waste of time sometimes. It doesn't always have to be something.
I mean, if you were mad at this, but you weren't mad at that giant ant playing the electric drums in what was that,
No.
Ant-Man 2?
Yeah. Oh god.
But like, we literally just got the performance, and I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah.
but why?
Yeah,
Because they spent
There's
all
a
that
lot
money
of-
on it. They made it, so
And
they
I
were like,
love
somebody's gonna
that
fucking watch this.
the graphic department made it like a gift that was opening, and they were like, "It's this is our gift to you," and then it was that entire song, because I knew as soon as I was like, "We're gonna get the whole fucking thing."
Yeah.
Because Amanda was like, "Why would they make them film this again?" I was like, "No. What we saw earlier was cut from this. They performed this one full time with all of those cameras on it, and then they cut around it." I was like, "This is the full performance that they cut it from."
Yeah.
And it was, while being the most obviously intentionally cringy thing that you've ever seen in your entire life, it was also fantastic.
It was definitely like well produced.
It was so
It
well
was-
fucking produced.
It
think
was
they were
so well produced. However, it, for me, because it was like supposed to be intentionally cringy, flipped to just like becoming full cringe. For
Awful.
me.
Yeah. No,
So like, I
absolutely-
couldn't even watch it.
My favorite was the dude that was like dressed as the Hulk. He's just like painted green, and was he like wearing a box or something? Like, or no, he had a hoodie. He had a big green hoodie on. Dude, I was fucking dying. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I thought it was bad, but I kind of like that they gave us part of Rogers the Musical only because it's been in the background of several things now. So now you at least get to see the program that all of the MCU New Yorkers are like dying to go see, like it's Book of Mormon or something.
But it bothers me so much because like there were so many like in jokes that they wrote into that song that you'd only know from watching the movies.
Yeah.
So it immediately pulls me out of the immersion that they're trying to like do. Come on, guys.
I
what are you
like the
doing?
line that like that guy wasn't even there, and he shows Ant-Man. I'm very interested in like what the plot is too, because it's like, if it's Rogers the Musical, is it just about Steve? Like, does this cover his whole life?
I think
And
so.
that like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Avengers scene is just one scene in the whole thing?
Yeah. I would imagine so.
Because he
Yeah.
definitely did have like the only like good looking costume of them all.
Yeah. I think for sure Rogers the Musical follows the life of Steve Rogers, but in a way that only America can look back on a guy that they created into a hero who then winds up giving his life for. So like, it is the most saccharine, like beautiful, sweet.
Yeah.
Everything worked out. He never made a moral mistake or had a question. He just fucking was always Captain America.
That Hannibal Buress line of, pretty sure this guy's a war criminal, but whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, you know, Steve was a kid and he got bullied, and like they just went through all of it, but in like the most fucking Broadway way possible. I feel like.
Yeah. I'm interested to
And-
see if this kind of stuff comes up in Cap 4. Because like the legacy of Steve Rogers was a big thing of like Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like now they're just completely like shitting on his memory. It's like, we're gonna make a musical, we're gonna put a shield on the Statue of Liberty, we're doing all this shit.
Isn't that great?
Iron
though?
Man's
Like,
the one who snapped his fingers.
But
What are they
Steve
doing
was-
for him?
But Steve stood in front of Thanos' army with a broken shield and was just going to fight them on his own.
Tony had enough brains to like protect his life rights in his will. Steve would not have known any of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody guided him in that. And because he's Captain America, the government feels like they own him. They own the mantle.
My
That's
God,
what we saw
they
in Falcon and
definitely
Winter
do
Soldier.
own.
So that's why they're just fucking printing money with all of the Steve Rogers shit.
Can't collect student loans, so we kind of just make
That's fascinating to like think about like the whole in-universe workings of their marketing department.
Yeah.
But on that note, I feel like we've said all that there is to be said about Hawkeye. Unless you guys have any final thoughts.
I'm just
I can do
brainstorming.
this all day.
That was my last
Can
brain
you?
cell. No, I think that was pretty much it.
Robert, any final thoughts on Hawkeye?
I mean, for me, like with every other MCU property, if you're doing a watch through of the MCU, you have to watch everything at least one time. So I think that you have to get through this to get the introductions of some of the stuff going forward. But overall, it's really like a middle to bottom offering from Marvel. I really don't understand when some people say that it's like fantastic and wonderful. Like I don't, because really all over the place. Could have been a lot of fun had they allowed some focus to happen on some things at some time, but instead we had a lot going on and we had to really wrap some shit up, which is also a testament to like the 6 episodes versus getting 8 or even 7.
Yeah.
But they went that way, and this is what it is. You know, I feel like it's like a solid C minus, and you know. Hopefully we'll get to see any or most of these characters in future shit where they're doing fun stuff and we could all enjoy them.
Personally, I think my final thoughts on this show are I'm glad it happened. I'm glad Hawkeye had his 6 episodes. I'm glad we got Kate Bishop. I'm glad we got more Yelena. I feel like the Red Suit Gang were really fun. They brought a lot of levity to an otherwise not so fun show, in my opinion. Their comments about wearing tracksuits like Tony Soprano and the Royal Tenenbaums made me legitimately laugh out loud.
The fucking Royal Tenenbaums joke.
So, like, there's good in this show.
Yeah.
It's sprinkled throughout. It's there. Worth a watch. Really, really mad about the fact that Kingpin's like immortal or something now, but at least he's here. I guess we should just be happy about the friends we've met along the way.
Is he though?
Is he? Because he did get shot in an alleyway.
He got
He's
shot
gonna
up.
be blind. They're gonna say he's blind. It's all happening. They just wanted to be like, oh, he's here. Look at him. He's here. And then, okay, now we're going to make him how we want to make him.
Yeah. He got shot off screen, which is an almost guarantee that he's alive, but
Yeah, because it happened off screen.
Could you imagine if they straight up that was it? He like never appeared again.
Yo, I'd be so mad.
I feel like I wouldn't be mad just because like I do think like the Netflix series did like a lot with that character, and I feel like kind of explored like the most like dramatic ground you can. But you know, I would like to be proven wrong.
Yeah. So like overall, everyone's saying that like, well, it's just setting things up. It's just setting things up. It's like, yeah, but this is what we got, and I didn't like what we got. So
Yeah,
I'm not gonna take what I hope we're gonna get eventually. Like, just give me it now.
I don't mind setting things up, but I don't want things to just set things up. I want a show to be good on its own, and then also like a little extra thing. Like I like getting the intro of Monica Rambeau and like having her get her powers, but that wasn't the only thing that WandaVision accomplished. That was just a very cool
WandaVision
extra
handled that so deftly, and this stumbled through introducing Maya.
Yeah.
By comparison, there is none. Like WandaVision absolutely crushed it in introducing that character.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed it, where this was just like,
But that's throughout. That's across the board with this show. Like with introducing characters regardless. So those are my final thoughts on it. I'll shut up about it.
Joe, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think in different ways I agree with everything you guys said. I don't know that this show really stuck the landing on most of the things it tried to do, serving as purely a handoff of the moniker of Hawkeye to Kate. I think it accomplished that. And I'm interested to see Young Avengers, which like every single show, get another Young Avenger. So it's obviously happening. I don't know when and I don't know how, but it will. So I'm interested to see her against Kang. I don't know. Sorry, that's a thing from the comic. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what happens there. I think, like I said earlier, I would enjoy a season 2 if it was just focused on Kate. Yeah. I think like drawing off of her solo comic that was like a pseudo sequel to Fractions, where she's like a private eye in California, and it's just her and Pizza Dog like trying to make it on their own, which is like a good, I think it would be a good callback to that last like fuck you from her mom. That's like, yeah, this is really hard, and like honestly probably harder than she's expecting it to be. So yeah, I do want to see her on her own working through that. I'm still excited to see more of Yelena. I wish we got more of her here, and I'm very excited to see where she'll turn up next.
Yeah.
As a goodbye to Jeremy Renner, if that's what this is, it's a little bit lackluster. But I also think like he had good moments in all of his Avengers appearances, so it's just kind of bittersweet in memory of those things.
In watching that Legends show that Disney Plus puts out,
I didn't watch it for this.
They do like, and now it's been like 10 to like 20 minutes, depending on who they're talking about, of like where the character has been through the MCU that ends them at the thing that you're about to start watching. Hawkeye's was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Was phenomenal, dude. Like, fantastic. And I've liked every single one of them, but that one specifically was like, because you realize how much stuff he's been involved with throughout, and it's like you really get like some perspective on like, fuck man, this character's really been around since the beginning and doesn't really get that credit.
And he's always just got like a side arc in the story, like the overarching story, but it's always been a really satisfying story to me. Except when he's like, you know, appropriating Japanese imagery and killing Asian people. But
and nobody still knows why.
He just did that.
He just did it. He just went fucking crazy and then came back, you know. He was a psychopathic murderer for like 5 years, and then he got better. It. When his one, all it took was his one friend to be like, "Hey,"
and his wife understood.
Oh, you were a fucking murderer?
Same.
Babe. Come on, babe.
She's a Skrull. It doesn't matter.
They're all Skrulls. All of the other shows except for maybe WandaVision and like very maybe Loki, of just like, it didn't feel like a TV show. It felt like a way overlong movie. They just haven't really gotten the pacing of a TV show right to like have something happen to further the story in every episode. Instead of just like things happening.
They just tell the story. Yeah.
And it's like you're hitting all the marks of a Marvel movie, but you're doing them cut like into like 45-minute pieces, and you're not even giving me like all the good things of a Marvel movie in every episode.
Yep. So now at this point, we turn it over to you guys. So we want to hear from you. Let us know what you thought about Hawkeye. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Is it kind of a mixed bag? Because that's kind of where we are all at. So let us know via social media at Pop Kannon. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We have a Facebook group. You could join it, called the Pop Kannon Collective. So go on, search that up. Don't forget the K, and ask to join.
Fun to be had by all in our Facebook group. But if you're listening to this podcast, make sure that you subscribe on the very platform that you're listening to, be it Apple Podcasts, the Google Play one, Spotify if you're there, and whatever the other ones are, Castbox, Radio Public, Anchor. Look us up on YouTube where you can see our glowing faces speak these reviews at you, as opposed to just listening to us talk at you in your car.
Don't watch us in your car, though.
Do whatever you want to do. It's America.
But we can't advise you to watch in your car legally. If you've followed us on YouTube and Facebook and joined the group and all that stuff, and you just can't get enough of Pop Kannon and you want to follow us individually and get all of our little mental gems whenever they come out of our stupid faces, you can follow us on our social medias, personal social medias. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Joe for Broke.
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Yesball.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JL24FPS. So thank you very much for watching and or listening. Please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. Every little rating and review helps. So make sure you hit 5 stars on whatever you're listening to us on. And we're really excited. It's 2022. We have a huge year ahead of us. And we can't wait to bring you guys along for the ride with us. So for Pop Kannon, my name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Joe.
And we'll see you on the next one.